Today, we're uncorking a fascinating mystery from the world of wine. It turns out there's a full-blown identity crisis happening in vineyards all over the world, and we're going to follow the detectives who are trying to solve it.
So let me ask you a simple question. How do you really know the wine in your glass is what you think it is? I mean, you buy a bottle of, say, Cabernet Sauvignon, and you expect that's what you're drinking. But what if I told you that the whole world of grapes is just tangled up in cases of mistaken identity, old aliases, and hidden family secrets?
And the heart of the problem? It's just the sheer scale of it all. We're talking about an estimated 15,000 different grape variety names out there in the world. That's an incredible amount of diversity, sure, but for anyone trying to keep track, it is an absolute logistical nightmare.
And this is where it gets really messy. A single grape might have tons of different names. We call them synonyms, just depending on where it's grown. And even worse, sometimes a grape is a total imposter, a misnomer that's been wearing the wrong name tag for generations. So how in the world do you sort this out? Well, that's when you call in the detectives.
So our first detective is the classic old-school investigator. You know the type. This is someone who relies on super careful observation and just years and years of experience to identify a suspect. And in the world of grapes, this science has its own special name.
It's called ampelography, and you can really think of it as a kind of botanical forensics. These ampelographers are trained to spot all the tiny, unique traits of a grapevine that give away its true identity. They don't need a fancy, high-tech lab. Nope. They need a sharp eye and a really deep knowledge of the vine itself.
For these classic detectives, the whole grapevine is basically a crime scene, and it's just filled with clues.
You've got clues hidden in the shape of the leaves, the number of lobes they have, even the texture of the leaf's surface. Is it smooth? Is it kind of blistered? Seriously, every single detail matters.
They're also looking at the color and the feel of new shoots, the exact shape of the grape clusters, and of course, the size, the color, and the shape of the berries themselves. It is an absolutely exhaustive process of just collecting visual data.
Now, this process isn't just guesswork, okay? It's highly standardized. There's this group called the International Organization of Vine and Wine, the OIV, and they provide a super detailed field guide for these detectives. Just look at this example. By observing only 3 traits, like how hairy a shoot is, the leaf shape, and the berry color, an expert can already start to tell these varieties apart. It's incredibly detailed work, but what happens when looks can be deceiving?
All right, let's bring in detective number 2, the modern forensic scientist. Now, this investigator couldn't care less about what a grape looks like on the outside. Oh no, they go straight to the source code, the DNA evidence that never ever lies.
And the key technology here is something called SSR markers, or microsatellites. The easiest way to think about them is as short, repeating bits of DNA that are different in every single grape variety. By analyzing these little markers, scientists can create a totally unique, 100% definitive genetic fingerprint for any grapevine. It is the ultimate identity test.
And the process is pure forensic science. It all starts with collecting a tiny leaf sample. From there, back in the lab, they extract all the DNA. Then, using a process called PCR, they amplify those specific SSR markers we were just talking about. And finally, those segments are analyzed to build that definitive genetic profile. No more guesswork. Case closed. Or is it?
Okay, so now we've got 2 detectives with 2 very different methods. So which one is better? Well, a really fascinating study at the Radmilovac Gene Bank in Serbia decided to put them both to the test in a real-world investigation.
So the mission was pretty straightforward. Researchers took 30 different grapevine suspects from their collection and basically ran both investigations at the same time. They did a full ampelographic analysis, the classic observation method, and a full DNA analysis with those SSR markers. The whole point was to see if the 2 detectives would end up telling the same story.
But when the results came in, each detective had built their own family tree, showing how they thought the 30 suspects were all related to each other. And here's the kicker. The family trees didn't match, not even close.
And this slide just shows the conflict perfectly. On the left, you've got the family tree that's based on physical appearance, what our classic observer saw. Then on the right, you have the tree based purely on the DNA from our forensic scientist. Just look at them. The main branches are totally different. Grapes that looked like they should be close cousins are suddenly in completely different families. So what is going on here?
Well, it really just comes down to this. The 2 methods are measuring fundamentally different things. Ampelography is all about appearance.
It groups grapes together that look alike. Think of it like eyewitness testimony. But DNA analysis, that's about ancestry. It groups grapes based on their actual genetic heritage, who their parents and grandparents really are. It is the difference between looking like somebody and actually being related to them.
Let's take a really specific case from the investigation. So, based on 32 shared physical traits, the old-school detective placed 2 grapes, Alicante, Henri Boucher, and Japsky Bajasser, side by side, like they were close relatives. But the DNA evidence, it told a completely different story. It proved they belonged to entirely separate genetic groups. They might look alike, but trust me, they are not family.
So what does all this mean for the future of wine? I mean, why is it so important to get a positive idea on these grapes? Well, as it turns out, this kind of detective work is absolutely essential.
The study's main conclusion was that neither detective can really solve the case alone. The best, most accurate identification comes from integrating both methods. You need the classic detective's keen observations combined with the forensic scientist's hard genetic proof to really, truly close the case.
And the stakes here are really high. This work helps us find and preserve rare and endangered grape varieties before they just vanish forever. It guarantees authenticity, so growers know what they're planting and you know what you're actually drinking. It lets us uncover the true history of our most famous wines. And maybe most important of all, it gives us the knowledge we need to breed new kinds of grapes that can thrive in our changing climate.
Which, brings us to a final thought. This detective work is so far from over. There are thousands of grapes still out there that are either unidentified or misidentified. And solving their identity crisis isn't just about fixing the record books. It's about unlocking a whole world of new flavors and new possibilities for the future of wine. What's out there just waiting in some vineyard to be rediscovered? It's a pretty exciting thought to drink to.